Hey everyone, and welcome back to our journey. I'm Lord Arathorn, and I'll be your humble guide and companion on today's adventure. If you're new to the journey, I invite you to follow the channel so you'll always know when we're starting the next leg of our adventure. Speaking of which, today we're going to be continuing with the World vs. World Rush event. Like I've said before, World vs. World is a game mode that I genuinely enjoy, so, that'll be, that'll be at least a decent part of my content. You can expect that. So yeah, now we completed the achievements the other day, on our other stream that we did, and I mean it was, wow, my god, the loot, the chests, everything else, I mean it was unbelievable. So yeah, we're just gonna keep playing though, because like I said, it's a game mode we enjoy, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, we're on our home borderland. We are queued up for, for Eternal Battlegrounds, EB in shorthand. But yeah, we're just gonna take a look around, see what kind of fights we can get into and stuff like that while we wait to go there. Eternal Battlegrounds, for people, the uninitiated or anything like that. That's genuinely where a lot of the fights go on. If you're not familiar, a lot of really good fights, so long as you're not terribly outnumbered or anything like that, which sometimes you are. I mean, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, so you just kind of, not get frustrated, hang in there. Now, that's easy for me to say, because, I mean, there are times that, that I do get frustrated. I mean, nobody likes, dying repeatedly, but it does require some perseverance, but, just kind of get your, just kind of get the hang of it, and, there you go. But anyway, we're going to go over here and check out, our northwest tower, because they just flipped Stargrove, which is one of the camps, and we're going to go see if we can defend it. Go ahead and get in here, make sure we get there before they show up, and hopefully they don't come, but we'll be here just in case they do. Yeah, it's looking pretty clear as far as it goes. Looks like we've got about 1:15 before we can go flip, the camp over here. So, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look like they're coming up, so I'm just going to go ahead and move down. Now, one thing, again, I'm going to be talking to the uninitiated a little bit as I stream too, because, there's a lot of people who have come to Guild Wars 2 recently with, the announcement of Guild Wars 3. So, I mean, we want to make it, as friendly for them as possible too, because it's easy, just like in the real world with our jobs or anything else, to kind of get caught up in jargon or, just anything like that. But, so, I mean, sometimes we forget to speak in a language that everyone can understand, per se. So, so generally speaking, for anyone, again, not familiar, if you look at this camp, you can see the different NPCs and stuff like that, and whatever else, but, there is a, you can see the glowing veteran supervisor here, and that's the one that that when they're glowing like that with that blue fire, kind of similar to the fire that I have with my ghostly infusion on my character, you don't want to attack them because they're ultra strong in that moment, because they have something called Righteous Indignation, or RI for short, and yeah, they hit a lot harder, and they're completely invulnerable, so, yeah, steer clear of that. We're just going to gather our nodes here as we go. And this should actually give us our camp achievement for weekly too. Yeah, there we go. Well, and Dulyaks. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we're just going to go ahead and move out here. We'll claim that camp. We've already got supplies, so no big deal there. Probably just go take this sentry next. Now, normally if I was, doing content like this, where I'm, just kind of roaming right now, which I'm waiting, to get into Eternal Battlegrounds, because Arathorn, of course, is my, kind of zerging and, group fight character for that kind of content. But normally if I was just doing small, sort of roaming and, small decaps like this on, some, tinier objectives, I would usually be on my Thief. Just because, or even my Mesmer, if I'm roaming with just a couple of people. But usually my Thief, if I'm, solo roaming or capping or just checking on things. Arathorn is, is tankier and built for group fights and support. Also commanding, because, as the old adage goes in Guild Wars 2 and World vs. World, you can't command from the ground. So... yeah, but she's definitely, definitely a DPS build. Strike hard and quick and be fast and move on. She's also the character that, if you watched my PvP stream, she's who I use there as well. Because, the same kind of tactics and theories and stuff like that apply. I am going to go ahead and just get this ruin for daily, though, before I travel to Eternal Battlegrounds. And there we go. Now let's go see what fights we can get into. See if we can find a commander to join up with, and all that good stuff. Alright. Well, our keep is tier 3, so, I mean, that means we've held our own pretty decently today. So that's good. That's always good. And I'm breaking my very own rule of thumb, because usually I'm the person who reminds people to do a food and utility check. Which again, I'm going to go ahead and just, put this out there for, for the people who are newer to the game. If you're in World vs. World or anything like that, or even, any other content, honestly, keeping a food and a utility on, will make your life so much better. Get something that works with your build. Like Arathorn here is based on survivability and, being able to help, the team and everything else. So you can see, like, my ascended food, and you don't need ascended food. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm just that way. I've got all my crafting disciplines, leveled and everything else, so I can do it. But, you can definitely go with just regular, a regular food that's gonna, help you out with some of those things. But, you can see it's, 20%, less incoming condition duration from enemies, 100 concentration increase, and plus 70 power, plus all the other, nice little benefits and stuff too. So yeah, definitely always have that going. And then of course, I gain power and toughness from, from my vitality and expertise from the utility here. So those are two things you always want to kind of keep on and going. And now you know. And as G.I. Joe used to say, knowing's half the battle. So we're going to go up here and see where the pink tag is. Alright, looks like they're fighting, or going to be fighting, or patrolling SMC right now. And another thing to remember, if, you know, and this is really for, you know, for new or experienced players alike, if you're going to be running and doing group content with, you know, with folks that are, you know, commanding and things like that, you definitely want to try to make sure to, you know, to join the tag if the tag is open, you know, the commander's, you know, group and squad, because you're really going to benefit from, you know, from boon sharing and things like that. It will help you stay alive. So just, you know, open the map like this, right? You can use the mini map as well if you're close enough, but you can open the map and just left click on that and join squad. And it'll, you know, it'll tell you if it's a private squad, and some people do run those. I always keep mine open. And most people, you know, from what I've tended to see, you know, they do, because you want to be able to see these stats and stuff up here and see, you know, quickly, you know, how much supply you have. You want to be able to see, you know, how many people are in the squad versus not. You know, all that good info. And anyway, let's go ahead and get ready for a fight here, because it looks like green is going to go ahead and push us. And you see where the commander's calling for CC, that's crowd control. And when they come in, you know, they're wanting us to go ahead and any kind of crowd control, and I've got quite a bit with my hammer, you know, basically you just go through and you try your best to kind of lock these sons of bitches down, you know, so they can't keep, you know, moving around and everything else. Now, I'll grant you, they're hitting hard, but that just means we need to hit harder. So I'm going to hit my big CC on that. Switch over, try to blast some water fields. Looks like our folks are down though, so yeah. Like I said, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, but, you know, it is what it is. Hey, what's up, Arch? I just saw you there, man. Sorry, I was in a fight and just talking and, you know, stuff like that. But, yeah, man, just doing some World versus World, you know, getting into some fights and things like that. How's it going with you, man? Oh, you decided to go with a thief, huh? Man, I gotta be honest with you. I love mine, especially for, you know, for roaming. I was just talking about that a minute ago. I don't know if you were here yet, but yeah, my thief, I love her in PvP. I love her for like solo roaming or even duo, you know, or small group stuff too. You know, just getting into fights, things like that. You know, she's really good for especially completing even daily objectives quickly, because I mean she's DPS build, of course. You know, but yeah, she's ultra fun. Ultra fun. You know, funny enough, my thief build is actually kind of an old school Daredevil build. And she's not really super run-of-the-mill. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, she's kind of based off of, you know, some of the current meta and stuff like that. But my tactic with her is, you know, for fighting, and it's sort of a weird tactic to kind of go with, is I don't really utilize a lot of the poison that she has. She runs dagger pistol and short bow. And short bow is really good too for mobility and stuff, but also at the same time, I mean, you know, she can drop those poison fields, but you know, it just puts enough on them that it reduces their healing capability and stuff, which is enough of annoyance a lot of times to go ahead and, you know, kind of get the result that you want in a fight. Especially, you know, getting kind of in and out and whatever else. Boy, this fight is going super poorly, though. Still alive, but barely. But yeah, as far as a trap thief or anything like that, I would maybe take the place I go to, especially when I'm not as familiar with the build that I'm shooting for. I always tell people to go check out, it's metabattle.com. I actually even have it as a shortcut on my Stream Deck. It's give me one quick sec. But yeah, meta battle is really good for kind of digging down into some of those things, and don't ever feel obligated on those to go, like when you see some of those builds, like you'll see that, you know, some things are rated like, you know, like 5 stars or 4 or stuff like that. The thing I always tell people is that, you know, don't feel obligated to just go with like a 5-star build and everything else, especially if it doesn't really match your play style, because that's, I don't know, man, that's one of the worst things, is trying to learn a play style that you hate. And to me, that's not why we game, honestly. You know, I would much rather have something that's maybe not the quote game meta and enjoy what I do, rather than, you know, rather than kind of build something that I just don't enjoy playing. But you can usually, it'll at least kind of, you know, kind of nudge you in the right way of sort of, you know, skills and, you know, different things that have synergy with each other. And, you know, you'll notice some recommended food and things like that. So I would definitely check out Meta Battle just to see if there's anything that, you know, that anybody has that, you know, that kind of is, you know, kind of up your alley per se. And the cool thing about Meta Battle too is that they divide it up among, you know, PvE, which is just open world environment, PvP, which is, you know, kind of the 5v5 content and stuff, and then also, you know, for world versus world, or, you know, fractals or even raids. So it's really good, you know, that they break it down like that, so you can find kind of exactly what you're looking for, and, you know, research builds pretty easily that way. So hopefully we can cap this tower before green comes from SMC, especially considering it's our tower. But they seem super intent on taking Stone Mist. I know green was a huge pain yesterday. they were absolutely ridiculous at times. So Arch, what would you say is your favorite, you know, kind of content to play or anything like that? Is it more like, you know, open world PvE, or, you know, world versus world, or? I know in my case, I generally, world versus world and open world content. You know, I also do dungeons, and I actually enjoy dungeons. I know not a lot of people, you know, do them these days. You know, but fractals, you know, once you get used to those are, you know, I enjoy those as well. Not quite tier 4 fractals. Don't really enjoy those as much, but the fractals themselves are pretty fun. Yeah, it's I've always enjoyed the open world PvE content. You know, because there's, you know, there's so much to find yourself doing. You know, and way kind of leads on to way. You know, you'll be going along doing some, you know, just doing some world exploration, just finding some things, and you'll find yourself helping somebody out in an event, or finding someone who's, you know, maybe struggling a little bit, and, you know, you end up resurrecting them, helping them for a little bit. You just, I don't know, you meet a lot of people there, and you kind of have time to, you know, sort of really enjoy the experience. I will say though, with world versus world, so a lot of people feel like, you know, world versus world can be daunting, and it can kind of be at first, because, you know, you come in and, you know, there are people who are used to it, and those are probably some of the people you're going to be, you know, kind of coming up against and stuff. And you'll die. I remember my first time in World versus World, I was running by Southwest Tower, on my way to Southwest Camp, and, you know, I was level 80, I'll be honest with you. You know, and I thought I had, you know, at least, you know, decent gear. I was in some exotics and stuff, and, you know, just generally doing okay. I was handling, you know, PvE stuff pretty well. And I absolutely got run over by like 10 people. And I was like, oh my god, this is going to be like the worst thing ever. You know, I'm never coming here again and stuff. And, but no, you know, it ended up not being like that. And you know, I just got with some people and ran around, and, you know, and just kind of felt it out, sort of stayed in a group a little bit at first. And that's the way that I would recommend doing world versus world when you first start to get used to it. You know, is just, you know, just kind of stay in a group like I'm in here. And really just, you know, it kind of lets you get your feel, and you kind of get some support from other players too. So you're not just kind of having to go it alone. But don't get daunted, you know, by dying, because that is definitely going to happen in World versus World. But to me, World versus World is a lot more forgiving than PvP. Yeah, so I'm actually the guild leader of Order of the Blue Heron, OTBH. Now we, you know, we're, of course, you know, we weren't active there for, you know, for a few years in game, and I've come back, and I'm currently rebuilding it. But yeah, it's, you know, and of course, you know, you are, you're more than welcome, man. And we've always done all kinds of content, and generally it's just kind of one of those things that I'm a big believer in like draws like. in the world. And you know, it's one of those that, you know, we've always tended to draw, you know, pretty chill people that, you know, just want to log in, have a good time, learn together. Um, so it doesn't matter if you've been playing 10 years or 10 days, um, everybody's welcome. So yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll send you an invite. Like I said, we're currently in the process of rebuilding. Um, you know, but we do have, you know, everything's fully upgraded, guild hall, all that good stuff. Um, you know, yeah, so, yeah, you are definitely more than welcome to join. So right now I'm on my warrior. You know, he's built more for like group content like this. You know, as far as like, because for like world versus world zerging, I go with something that has a little bit of survivability to it. You know, which is definitely my main tune, Arathorn. Um, but yeah, see, that's, you know, that's one thing I've always believed in, is that, you know, when you're doing something with people, like, I'm one of those people, I don't like to be rushed, and I don't learn by being rushed and being hurried and, you know, being yelled at or dismissed or anything else. Like, that's not my learning style. That's not how I would want to be, you know, taught or learn how to do things myself. So, you know, my goal, even back with the MMO that we played previously, all the way back in 2009, our guild was the Band of the Red Hand. And, you know, that's always been my philosophy, man, is just, you know, build a place where people feel like they can be comfortable and be at home and play together and learn at their pace. Because, I don't know, I mean, it's one of those that I've never had the goal in my life as a player or as a guild leader or anything else to be super uber elite or think that everybody around me needs to be as well. Yeah, it's just about having fun, being with good, chill people. Um, you know, to me, that's what it's all about. So, yeah. Yeah, and if you want to, when you're in game next, shoot me a message, um, or send me some mail or whatever else. You know, whatever it is, just send me that, and we'll get you added in or whatever else. Yeah, we do actually have a Discord. And it's for the guild, currently it's going to be the same server as far as it goes as my Lord Arathorn Discord. Not that we're super using it, you know, as far as at the moment and stuff, just kind of being back, but yeah, we definitely do. Oh, awesome. Oh, well, hey, if you so if you want to just message me your like, if you want to, so here's my, I'm going to pull this up real fast. This is my in-game, this is my username in-game, to send mail. Right there. But yeah, if you want to send me a message on there with your username, like, it'll pop up if you don't know where your username is. It'll pop up when you hit this contacts and looking for group. But just shoot me that in a message on Facebook, and I'll get you added right in, man. Absolutely. And any questions you've got about anything like that or anything else, you know, whether it's in game, whether it's in Twitch chat, anything like that, you know, don't hesitate to ask. You know, feel completely comfortable and at home, because my thing is, just like, you know, just like in real life and with work, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and, you know, there literally is no such thing as a stupid question, because we learn with every question we ask. And I by no means know everything, especially coming back to the game, you know, these past few months after, you know, after some years away. But even if I don't know, I'll do my very best to find us both an answer to it, and we'll learn together. Let me pull off to the side here real quick. Let me port to the keep here real fast. And I'm going to go ahead and plug that in and get you added up. Just give me 1 second here. Yeah, it's not coming. I tried to send it. It's not coming up though. On that arch, double check that for me, and just shoot me a message with what you find on that there, and I'll try to resend that. And welcome, by the way, to anyone who's joined us. And thanks for coming along and doing some World versus World with us here. And if you've joined us and we haven't met before, my name's Lord Arathorn. Most people just simply call me Era. Always have across the MMOs and other games that I've played. You know, so yeah, if you've got any questions, anything like that, don't hesitate to ask any of them. You know, we're just here to have fun, have a good time, chill, hang out, learn, and all the things. And apparently that does include, you know, getting face smashed by green currently, but, you know, it's all good. One thing I'll say is they have a, that green group has a lot of necros, and currently that, my god, that necro meta is unbelievable running into. Rough. Ideally, green and red would be fighting each other right now, because, you know, red seems to be doing pretty okay on their side of the map, but green's had it out for us this whole matchup. I know we made them mad yesterday. They were slightly upsetty spaghetti when they were losing fights to our group, because we were a lot smaller and nowhere near as organized as their group, And yeah, we took their SMC away, and yeah, they didn't like that too well. Looks like our commander is gonna take a break. So before I join that other commander, let me see if I can send that again arch real fast. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. All right, invite sent. See, I'm going to go ahead and join the green tag squad here. We'll go over there and meet up with our new commander. And see what kind of fights and otherwise we can find. See, they're at QL or Quentin Lake. And that's another thing too. If I ever say anything that sounds like jargon, and you're not sure what it is, for anyone, feel comfortable asking. Like, I mean, there's so much, and I may call something by a name that, even people on my own server might not call it, because I started all the way back about 6 months after the game launched, and one thing I've noticed when they merged servers and things like that is that, it's funny how, how every server kind of had their own lingo and stuff. And so, so I might call something that even another long-term player, just might not recognize. So yeah, I mean, feel free to ask, feel free to, say, yeah, what the hell is a QL? Which is Quentin Lake. It's a tower in Eternal Battlegrounds, by the way. Because that's one thing that, that I know for me, and I've always been a person who, I like to know, but sometimes, and maybe it's because of, some of the MMOs that I've played in the past, because, the game Shia, and that was all the way back, like I said, in like 09, it was it was one of those, Korean, sort of grinder MMOs. And, it was a free-to-play, of course. And those games, we carved out our own niche in that as, as the Band of the Red Hand. And we had a lot of great people who just, just truly awesome individuals who, like I said, it's kind of a like draws like thing with the guild. It's that, you generally tend to find each other and flock together. But man, oh man, the community there was not like the community here, so far as the, the actual player base goes. Because, yeah, there were some really cool people that I met that weren't in our guild or anything, but man, there were some real assholes too. So, like, if you asked anything, like, it was like you just ran this complete risk of, getting flamed in the chat and, all that stuff. I mean, and that's one thing I like about Guild Wars 2 is it's not like that, but I mean, sometimes you'll come across that in, like, higher level content. You know, you run into some a-holes in World versus World or high-level fractals and stuff like that, but for the most part, you generally don't find that. But you know, that's why I always try to make people feel comfortable with asking, and I try to explain. Even sometimes I find myself over-explaining, just because, I don't know, man. I just want people to be comfortable, because, you know, I don't know. I mean, I've seen what it's like on the others. Like, I've seen the opposite of that, and I don't want people to experience that, I guess, is, you know, is what I'm trying to say there. And I need to go ahead and collect my daily stuff here before that resets in a bit while I'm thinking about it. Probably helps if I actually run up the stairs instead of into them, but you know. And at the beginning of the stream, I mentioned RI in that camp, which is Righteous Indignation, and that's that symbol there, and you can see cannot be killed and deals more damage. You know, and there's a countdown on that every time you flip a tower or a camp, any objective like that. So he's got, you know, a little over 2 minutes of RI left, so you just kind of got to wait that out. Got about 1:40 left on that. So I think I'm somehow obligated to say warrior. Arch on that, because that's the class I started on, and I do genuinely have a deep and abiding affection for that class. You know, but I have to say, you know, my thief, I genuinely just love playing on my thief, and I was a little rusty on her when I came back, don't get me wrong, and that probably showed in my PvP stream as well a bit, but man, it's such a quick, just you know, bouncing around fighting style. I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan or anything, but I swear, fighting on my thief feels like I'm running on, you know, on Grandmaster Yoda, you know, like it's just, you know, it's all, you know, flip and slash and cut and dodge, and, you know, just such a fun style to play. And I never really thought that I would be all that great on Thief, because my ult that I used for the longest time, and I still do play Mesmer, but you know, it was mainly Warrior and Mesmer for me. And then they changed a little bit of the build at one point in time before Heart of Thorns came out, and my build wasn't as effective that I like to play with the playstyle I liked, so I decided to, you know, to try Thief out, and I have never looked back. It is so fun. Yeah, so I use, as far as my characters, I I use him for different things. Like I was saying on Era, he's more built for like this type of like group world versus world content. They call him, they call it a Zerg, if you ever hear that term thrown around. But it's he's made for more survivability, and he's a little bit tankier and stuff. Like my wife's build that she runs a Guardian in World versus World, and she also runs Heal Guardian in like Dungeons and Fractals. So she's a little bit tankier as well for that, for group content. Her main is a Mesmer, and that's what she'll roam around with, either my Mesmer or my Thief on. So I like my Mesmer in small group content, and I like my Thief in small like solo duo roaming content and for PvP. But my Guardian, I actually use my Guardian in Dungeons and Fractals. You know, now my Guardian, my main build on him, I've got 2 builds for him. The first is a DPS build, so you know, he's high DPS and all that good stuff, you know, for taking out the bosses and mobs and stuff like that. But I also have an alternate build for him that I can swap to, like in a, you know, kind of in a pinch. That is that's the same as my wife's build. It's like a tank healer build with a lot of support and things like that. But now I can genuinely say that there's only one class that I can absolutely say that I just have no skill or talent for whatsoever, and I genuinely mean that. And that is Elementalist. I am honest to goodness the worst Elementalist that I think I've ever seen play. Like even Engineer, I can kind of figure out to an extent. I mean, I don't really play it, but you know, I at least understand Engie. I'm the most hopeless Elementalist ever. And back when we were playing regularly, one of the guys who used to be one of our World versus World commanders, and he was one of our guild officers as well. His name was Faust. Great guy. Supremely talented World versus World commander as well. My God, he was so good. But man, he ran Dagger Ellie, and to hear him talk about his rotation cycle and stuff on like old school Dagger Elementalist, I mean, it was just mind blowing. Like, I mean, you know, just all of the, you know, he's like, yeah, I swapped straight from this and hit this skill and swap this, and I always thought that, you know, some of my skill rotations were kind of convoluted on some of my characters, but oh my God, Elementalist is wild, man. That's just beyond me. Alright, we got the gate open, so oh yeah. Cleave. I can't even use the word. I was just talking about Faust, right? And I mean, like, he was just, I'm an okay commander, like, you know, but I'm a little more chill in my commanding style and stuff like that. Now I can get kind of worked up in a fight, like get excited and stuff, you know, whatever else. But Faust that I was just talking about, he was, my God, man. I mean, even listening to him command, I mean, it was, you know, it was always stack, cleave, push, no, back. Like, it was, you know, he's just one of those types of commanders. I've got some old footage I may load up to the YouTube channel sometime, of him commanding and stuff, whatever else. He was great though, man. I mean, one of the best commanders I can personally say that I've ever actively seen or followed. And he could, you know, one kind of super, you know, underappreciated skill, like, yeah, you can command a group that's in, you know, TeamSpeak or Discord or stuff like that, and that's one thing, and he could do that well, but he could also, you know, kind of what you call chatmand. You know, he could command a fight in the chat at the same time that he was doing that, and anyone who's tried to do it at all and try to do it effectively knows how difficult that can be. Like, it's not just something that you know, that you just log in and do really simply and easily. I always respected the hell out of him for his ability to be able to do that. I mean, it was, but I mean, you know, hey, we obviously, what I just said at Elementalist, he was obviously good at, you know, at multitasking and, you know, keeping all that stuff straight. Yeah, engineer tends to be, you know, a pretty rotation heavy class too. Yeah, you're dead on that. It really is kind of, you know, piano playing more so than, you know, a lot of the other classes and stuff. That's a perfect way to put it. Our friends are going down. They finally got me.
I'll revive you soon.
That's a pretty good fight all in all, though. Everybody held up pretty good. Go ahead and grab our supply there. Do a food and utility check. So I got 17 minutes on both of those. Looks like we're going back to join the three-way dance in Stone Mist Castle again. Did you like NG though, Arch? Like, did you enjoy playing the class itself? Oh, let's see if we can get our friend up there. Oh yeah, they definitely pushed out on that one. Wow. Let's go ahead and try to pull out of that a bit. Give our friends some speed and some small heals. Oh yeah, that's more than 5. That was more than 5. But now, generally what you see me playing here, Arch, just to kind of give you a preview of, you know, like we were talking about World versus World and, you know, stuff like that. And I know you said you hadn't played it a lot, you know, so far. generally speaking, Eternal Battlegrounds is kind of where a lot of the fighting happens, like large group fights, things like that. I mean, you'll get them on some of the other maps if Zergs have to respond, or if you go over to one of the maps, but a lot of the team fights happen on this map. And the other ones kind of lend themselves to roaming a little bit more. And they let you get a little bit more of a feel, for World versus World and, some of that stuff a little better than what Eternal Battlegrounds do. So I would probably go into one of those maps first to kind of start out, instead of jumping right into Eternal Battlegrounds. Alright, let's go back in here. See if we can lock that stomp down. See if we can get out of that. And I don't think I'm gonna be able to. Nope.
Come here.
Yeah, I've honestly really I've always really liked Warrior, which I'm in whatever game I generally play, like it's almost kind of like the Skyrim meme, like you tell yourself, oh, I'm gonna play a magic class this time and whatever else, and but I always end up kind of going back to melee. I love melee classes. I love, kind of the, the Smash Mouth style. I do use a bow like in Skyrim and stuff, of course, and all that. But as far as, I don't know, man. I just, Dragon Age Inquisition, anything like that. Like I really do go toward, more of a melee play style. So yeah, I really genuinely enjoy Warrior. I'm gonna try to support our friends over here while they force green back, because a lot of times they'll send their archers or their range to, to try to punish people on, on any of the arrow carts or anything, but looks like we got them pushed back pretty well. Yeah, I know on the engineer, and I can't bring to mind exactly what it was called for Heart of Thorns. I know they had like the grenade kits and stuff, that you can use in conjunction with with some explosives and stuff. But yeah, I liked my engineer, but I can't say that I was ever a good engineer. I think it fell a little close to sort of the play style of of Elementalist for me. And I liked my Revenant as well, but that was a class that I never really, I don't know, I almost feel like with Revenant I never really got my head around that class, and I've run into quite a few really good Revenants over time. But yeah, that was one I think I like the concept of Revenant more so than I like the execution of it, if that makes sense. So with Revenant feels Revenant kind of feels like a warrior or guardian that also has a lot of the it also has a lot of the swapping back and forth between your spirits, sort of like elementalists swap their elements, which I don't know. There's a lot of that play style, you know, tends to be around. It tends to lend itself to upkeep of your energy bar, and I can't even remember exactly what they call that right off top, but you know, I mean, at the same time, I mean, my playstyle with warrior, you know, really, you know, kind of revolves keeping, you know, my adrenaline and stuff up as well, you know, for my F1 skill. But I don't know, Revenant just feels, I don't know, Revenant feels weird. I never really, like I said, I liked the idea of it, and it sounded really cool when it was coming out with Heart of Thorns, but I don't know, I never really gelled with the playstyle. It was a really strange playstyle. But I'll tell you what, for the people who do like it, and the people who, you know, who do have a feel for it and such, man, is it a rough class to come up against in, you know, in World versus World. Because I know I've come up against a couple of Ranger Revenant duos, and a couple of Thief Revenant duos, and man, that's ooh. That can be a little bit hairy to come up against. See if I can get our friend up here. See if we can get this down stomped. Nope. That's the price of getting distracted. And welcome in to anyone who's joined us in the last little bit. Thanks for coming along with us. All right, back up to the siege. We're not going to let them fight here at our walls. We're at least going to make them work for it if they want to come take the keep. Try and never make it easy. But I gotta be honest, I do not think we're going to be winning fights against green tonight. They are way, way too organized for us to be winning those. And in these kind of scenarios, I mean, it's usually a little bit better off just to, you know, because a few people will be here to defend and stuff like that, but you've got to kind of pull them away from your stuff and go over and, you know, at least make the attempt to hit something of theirs. Because yeah, you can see, I mean, they're just gonna keep pushing us back toward, you know, toward our stuff here. I mean, there's no real way to fight that without pulling off and kind of going around. Because right now our squad is just kind of a pickup group, and it's not in any way, you know, organized. So
I chose you.
But that's what they've been doing. They've been pressing pretty hard. I would have thought while green's been over here with us, I would have thought that red would have taken Stone Mist Castle or something, but or that green would at least be over, you know, trying to take some of red's stuff, but no, they are perfectly content to be right here. So we'll hit them with some arrows. We will make them bleed for it. Right, stand in that.
Bam!
Yeah, right now a lot of the people that are out there are just kind of feeding. Yeah, they're really out there just kind of feeding them at this point. You gotta stay up on the walls, not let them bait you out. Because they'll just keep doing it. And I mean, from their standpoint, I mean, they're getting kills. So, I mean, they're going to keep doing it as long as you kind of let them. Because why wouldn't you, you know?
I chose you.
So as far as a favorite race, I'll say that from just a standpoint of being interesting, and I may be biased on this as well, because my wife started as a Sylvari, but I think probably my favorite race, and I'm not going to do any spoilers here in what I'm saying, but I think my favorite race is probably the Sylvari, just because their backstory and everything, in my opinion, by ArenaNet, was really, really super well done. You know, and then on top of that, I was just, when I first started playing, like I said, my wife started as a Sylvari, so when I joined her in the Grove, which is their home city, the first time I stepped foot in that map, I portaled there from Lion's Arch, and it was nighttime. And I remember seeing the Grove at night, and that was honestly one of the most beautiful sights that I still to this day have ever seen in this game. And I'm of the opinion that it's a really beautiful game anyway. So for me to say that is really, you know, really saying something. But yeah, I think probably just from a lore standpoint and everything else, I'd have to say Sylvari. Just the whole concept behind them is just really awesome. What about you? What's your favorite race so far? Might go over here and see what the commander's doing at the tower. No, there's green again. Right on. Yeah, it's so I have to say, outside of, you know, just being enamored with the Sylvari maps, I really love Divinity's Reach. You know, just because I remember exploring that town for the first time, and you know, it's just so I mean, it's massive, one, but I also just love the like, you know, kind of the celestial mechanical workings at the center of the city and everything. Absolutely awesome. And a little bit about me, I grew up, you know, for, you know, the first, you know, handful of years in my life, you know, through my teen years, in farm country. So Queensdale and those kind of maps for me, and kind of the farming vibe and stuff like that, it was, I don't know, it kind of felt, you know, it kind of felt a little bit homey to me. So yeah, me personally, now if I'm answering my least favorite race in the game, and this is no offense to anyone, it's the Azura. And that's just because of a personal bias of mine. For whatever reason, I don't know, I'm not huge on like the Magitech aspect, even though again I think Guild Wars 2 handles it really, really well. It's just never been, you know, kind of one of my, it's not one of my favorite, you know, sort of, you know, tropes as far as it goes. I don't know. Yeah, that's a salad people. Yeah, that's what I always razz my wife about. I either call her a salad or I pull the Canadian slur out and call her a leaf. You know, until I started playing Guild Wars 2, funny enough, that was the first time that I had ever heard somebody call Canadians leafs. And after I heard it here, like, you kind of hear it and see it, you know, online, whatever else. But yeah, I definitely co-opted that particular thing. Boy, we are really just getting pushed here tonight. My goodness. I go back, meet up with the commander here. And welcome in to anyone who's joined us. Thank you for stopping by. We're just doing a little world versus world. Currently, green is, man, they really have it for, oh, a portal bomb. That's a nice change of pace. Jeez. Well, it's good to know someone over there is feeling creative tonight.
That feels good.
Oh my god. That's great. I actually went Daredevil on my thief. For me, I really like the mobility of Daredevil, personally. You know, it just really feels, I don't know, for me, as far as, I've not played the Deadeye spec myself. I just feel like with my playstyle and what I look for from Thief, it looks like a really interesting playstyle, but for me personally, I'm not sure that I would completely enjoy it, just because I do like melee Thief, contrary to, you know, I mean, I run short bow, of course, because, you know, you got to have a little bit of separation sometimes, and the mobility itself really kind of helps a lot in PvP or world versus world. But yeah, I really like the Daredevil playstyle a lot. You know, I feel like it lends itself, you know, to just being kind of, you know, kind of quick and fast, and, you know, and getting around places and responding quickly. Funny, I was talking crap about, you know, like the Azura being my least favorite, you know, as far as in-game race and stuff like that, but my Thief actually is an Azura. So, yeah. Alright, looks like our commander tagged down. Alright, so, well, we had a, you know, we had a decent, you know, kind of run in the beginning as far as world versus world goes. You know, just had some fun, you know, hanging out, getting in some fights and things like that. But green has definitely decided to punish us. But So for my warrior, actually, I actually run core warrior as far as that build goes. Now, the build that I run on warrior, I don't think you're gonna find that probably on any kind of, you know, meta battle site or anything like that. But it really is just kind of my own sort of, you know, synergy build as far as it goes. You know, I generally tend to, so I run, I'll say PTV, which is power, toughness, vitality on my armor, you know, which is soldiers as far as that goes. And then I work in, you know, I work in some pieces like on my weapons that have concentration in there as well. So it gives me really good support boon uptime and things like that. So yeah, he's definitely, you know, definitely tankier than the standard warrior and stuff like that. But as far as that goes, you know, a lot of the utilities and stuff and things like that, like you'll notice I run like the superior sigil of bloodlust here. So if I can keep my stacks up, you know, which I generally, you know, for the most part can, you know, I gain quite a bit of power from that. But even in PvE, like, you know, Arathorn is just my kind of my general all-around character. He's the one that I play, you know, really the most, even out in just regular PvE. So they've added some things with the, oh, not Path of Fire, but End of Dragons expansion, that you can actually get these buffs and boons for your, you know, both your defense and your offense if you're going to be in PvE doing some stuff with the Jade Tech line. That, you know, it also increases your strength and things, your strength, your, you know, your toughness and stuff like that, that, you know, I get some boost from that too. Because now in PvE though, I don't run hammer, I actually run longbow. And the reason for that is because it's also really good for support, because it it has a lot of blasts for the fire fields, especially with my warhorn, and the bow itself even. You know, on your skill 3 you can blast your fire fields, you know, for some good might upkeep and stuff. But yeah, it's so generally, like with Era here, like now they've changed sword recently, I will say. You know, so it does work a little bit different, main hand sword on warrior, than it used to. Because used to, your skill 1 here, you know, it would actually immobilize, you know, the enemies in front of you for a time. So that was a really good kind of, you know, kind of small CC for, you know, locking people down when they're trying to run away, like when you kind of broken their line a little bit in World versus World. But they did add an immobilize aspect to skill 3 on sword. So, you know, it's brief, it's small, but it also does, you know, it doesn't require as much adrenaline management and stuff. So, you know, I actually like the change. I actually gave feedback on the forums about the potential change, and I was really pleased to see that they at least took that into consideration a little bit. So that was nice. But yeah, like with, and then with my hammer, you know, you've got some, you know, some crowd control with that as well. You know, to kind of lock them down. And then of course the big one is Earthshaker. You know, you can really, if you have your adrenaline up to like level 3 and can manage that, and you do through your build, you can really change, you know, the tenor of a, you know, kind of a fight and a matchup, you know, if you're paying attention to your positioning and, you know, where you're doing your leaps and stuff like that. So yeah, it really lends itself to, you know, kind of a unique play style. It's a lot different than what you'll find in a lot of the recommended builds and stuff, but it's one that I've run. I can honestly say that I've run this build in World versus World on my warrior since probably probably 2013. Now, of course, at that time I was running soldiers because they didn't have they didn't introduce the 4-stat combinations, which is Rukas, which is Wanderers in the exotic form. But they didn't introduce the 4-stat stuff really until the first expansion, Heart of Thorns. But that's when I started working that into my build a little bit with the concentration, because that keeps up your boon uptime that you apply. So anything I'm applying with anything like, you know, might or, you know, quickness with my Warhorn, because like I said, there's a lot of synergy in the build itself. You know, because not only am I applying, you know, some quickness and swiftness and fury and stuff like that, but I'm also, because of the build itself, you know, I'm removing a lot of conditions. It's a lot of breaking immobilizations. So yeah, it's a really good character for World versus World as far as, you know, large group fights, especially if the squad itself is, you know, divided up, you know, properly. You know, it really has, you know, really has a lot of utility in those fights. But yeah, it's definitely my warrior is probably my most personally created build that I have. The others generally run at least semi in line with what would be considered the meta. But yeah, it's like I said, the warrior build is really based around, you know, a lot of synergy. But as far as the, you know, I never did actually go into build itself. But yeah, I run discipline, tactics, and defense on him. And some of that synergy that I was talking about is, you know, kind of like, you know, because I was talking about managing adrenaline, of course, with this build. So, you know, of course, you gain with Versatile Rage here, you gain adrenaline on weapon swap, which also my battle runes and my gear, my weapons, you know, lend itself toward, you know, swapping quite a bit. You know, you gain your speed. Any kind of movement skill breaks immobilization, so it keeps you from getting locked down. So it, even if they can apply a lot of condies and a lot of movement impairing conditions, I have a lot of ways to break that and clear that. And for support, for, you know, especially if you're, you know, commanding or anything like that, that helps keep me mobile. You know, and if I have a guardian, you know, to help apply stability and things like that, and some condi cleanse too, I mean, it really, you know, like it, and that kind of goes toward the squad being set up properly, like I was talking about. But you know, if the squad's set up properly, I mean, it really goes a long way towards synergizing with other builds as well. And you know, of course, there's the swiftness on, you know, on swapping, and then removing conditions when you swap to weapons. That's another part of that I was talking about. You know, the might gain. You know, and then you come down here to tactics, some more might gain with the soldier's focus, roaring reveal, or revile. So, you know, that's where the Warhorn comes in handy with applying those additional boons and stuff, and it helps my concentration as well, for boon uptime. The damage increase, empowering allies. So yeah, it's you know, a lot of small heals, things like that, which, you know, kind of come in clutch when, you know, when your other classes have burnt through a lot of their stuff. You know, the protections, the regens. And here's another thing, you know, when it comes to managing your adrenaline and stuff, adrenal health, you know, you can see the benefit there, because, I mean, you know, so every time I'm using, if I can keep my adrenaline up all the way to 3rd tier, but maxed out before I use my, you know, my F1 skill, then, you know, I'm gaining a pretty decent heal. I mean, as far as 5,600. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different build compared to the others that you're gonna find on like meta battle and stuff. But I really do enjoy the build itself. It's sustainable. Um, it keeps you alive without being tanky. Um, so yeah, it's it really goes a long way in those Zerg fights that you find yourself in, especially on Eternal Battlegrounds and stuff. So now on my thief, you were asking kind of what I run on that. Let me log real fast to my character screen, and I'll hop on her real fast. So on her, I generally run short bow and dagger pistol, and it's and on her, it really is, it's a really different fighting style, completely different to my main Arathorn. It really is kind of a get in, get out style. Um, Not really made for for the things that Era is made for, because it's his style is kind of smash mouth and up close and personal, survive the Zerg. Um, that's why I use Tana here, my thief, for roaming and stuff. Um, and like solo roaming or duo roaming and stuff like that. Because yeah, she really is. It's almost straight up Zerkers and Marauders. For her, she's got just enough vitality to make it a little bit sustainable. Yeah, I think I went with like the very smallest. I think I went with like the very smallest Azura size that I could find. Um, so yeah, it's yeah, she can be a little bit difficult to see, which I guess works out for Thief. Um, but yeah, I really like the interrupt of pistol. Um, especially, and you can close really quickly so that you don't find yourself having it. Because I mean, steel really does come in clutch for interrupts, even when you're fighting like Tower Lords and World versus World and stuff like that. Uh, that steel is a really good, it's a good interrupt with days. It also comes in clutch if you're trying to save your roaming partner. If they're getting ready to get stomped, you can save that steel, um, and you can you can leap right at them and interrupt their stomp, as long as as long as they don't have their stability up or anything like that. And another little thiefy thing that I enjoy doing, and there's actually a clip up on my YouTube channel. I like to pull it off in especially in PvP, is so especially with like mesmers or thieves or whatever else, the ones who can kind of port away from your stomp, like when you're in the process of stomping and they just port away, like your thief down skill does, and you port like a few feet. What you do is you just, instead of backing off that on your thief, if you reserve your steel, you can start the stomp like you're doing your stomp and pretend the person's here. So if the thief ports away over here, the mesmer blinks away over here, whatever else, and you're mid stomp, you don't have to stop. Let yourself keep going, let them reappear, and then hit your one skill, your steal, at the very last minute, and it'll still bring you over here and complete your stomp. Even with you porting to them. Like I said, I've got a brief clip of that. I think it's a YouTube short that I did. And I may have even shared it on Facebook or other socials and stuff like that, but that shows kind of what I'm talking about. But it really is, like, steel is worth reserving, instead of just, being something to close with. And that's why I really like having, I like having, shadow shot here, for my 3 skill with the pistol, because it really lets you close without having to waste your steel and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's I mean, this style, it really is just kind of, get in, get out, kind of arrive, raise hell, leave, and you know, and get the job done really quickly, if at all possible. As long as you don't get locked down in traps and and wells and stuff like that. And then I was mentioning my short bow for mobility. Now Daredevil has a lot of mobility anyway. Let's just, I mean, call it what it is, because I mean, you have a lot of mobility with that. But at the same time, if you get good with the short bow, you can find yourself making as long as you have a direct kind of route, you have to learn to kind of play with it. But that learning to use your short bow and have that kind of mobility and kind of extricate yourself in a fight, like if you do try to get locked down, because you got your short bow 3 that'll kind of leap you back a little bit, from if they're trying to drop wells, and you can kind of transport yourself like that right there with your bow as well. And that's a little bit disorienting. It's kind of mesmerish, sort of, in its whatever. Because to me, a lot of thieves rely way too heavily on stealth, in my opinion. And of course, you certainly, want to use your stealth. Anytime you can and stuff like that. But there are other ways too to keep your mobility up in, in kind of small fights. And that's something that I would encourage anyone who runs Thief to really learn how to, to kind of exploit that mobility a little bit, getting from place to place, because, it can really change the tenor of your fights just kind of all together, Like I said, it sort of feels Yoda-ish, a little bit insofar as it goes when I'm playing her, her style. Because it's very leapy, it's very, kind of like I said, get in, get out, and get the job done. But yeah, I like her playstyle a lot. It's very different to anything that I thought I would enjoy, but I really do. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite classes now. But if you would have asked me that when I first started, there's no way I would have probably ever imagined myself rolling Thief. Now I know you said you're running dual pistols. I mean, are you liking that pretty well? Does it feel pretty comfortable for you? And I'm going to swap over to Era here real fast, just to open the chest and stuff, because he has way more bag space than what my little Thief does currently, which is kind of both of it's kind of a dumb and lazy thing to say, because she would have bag space if I just went ahead and used my bag slot expansions and my bags that I have. But somehow there always seems to be something else to do in the moment, so yeah, it's and that is like I remember like the unloads on because I think when I first started out my Thief, when I was leveling her, I used pistol, and yeah, man, those unloads on the pistol, like it's like it will definitely make you feel some type of way, as far as feeling like really overpowered and stuff. Pistol was fun. I'm gonna port to the guild hall just to kind of get us out of the noise of the Queen's Terrace. There we go. A little more peaceful there. All right, well, I think with that, I think today's adventure is going to draw to a close. Arch, thank you so much for hanging out, chatting, man. That's really awesome, and thank you for joining the guild as well. You know, and I'll definitely see you in game there, and you know, see you on stream as well. But yeah, thanks for traveling along with me, everybody, and I'll see you soon for the next leg of the journey. But in the meantime, please do remember to be good to one another, extend yourself some grace, and as we say in the order, with honor to glory. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks.